All right, let's just jump right into it. We are going to break down an absolutely incredible story, a 10-year journey from being deep in debt to becoming a millionaire. This is literally a real-world roadmap that shows what's possible when you decide to completely change your relationship with money. And wow, these numbers right here, they tell the whole story. You start in 2013 with a net worth of negative $40,000. You're in a hole. Fast forward a decade to 2023, and that completely flips to over $1 million. We're talking about a massive turnaround.
So you gotta ask, right? How on earth does something like this even happen? How does just a regular average college grad completely reverse their financial life like that? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna unpack. Okay, so section 1, the $40,000 starting line. Yeah, this whole journey kicks off from a place that, let's be honest, it probably feels super familiar to a lot of us. Being stuck in a deep, deep hole of debt. So here's the situation back then. You've got a recent college grad, 36 grand in student loans, which is pretty standard, right? And then on top of that, another $4,000 in credit card debt. So the total damage, $40,000. And the financial plan? There wasn't really a plan. It was more like, I hope I get a high-paying job someday and this all just disappears.
You know, a decade can feel like such a long time. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It's so true, isn't it? We think we can do so much in just 1 year, but then we totally underestimate what's possible if we just stay consistent for a whole decade. Which leads us right into section 2, a new financial plan. Because having that long-term view, it required a complete total shift in mindset. You had to move from just hoping to having an actual intentional plan. And you can really see the difference here. The old plan was, well, it was passive. You just kind of let debt pile up and you felt like money was controlling you. But the new plan, which came from taking a financial course, was all about grabbing the steering wheel. It was about taking control, making deliberate choices with one single clear goal: get rid of all the debt. So what was the first aggressive step? It was huge. They literally cut up the credit cards. And look, this wasn't just about stopping the swiping. It was a massive symbolic gesture. It was a declaration that the old way was done. Over. No more fake safety net. And this right here is such a key point. Because, all the financial gurus might argue about interest rates and paying off the highest one first, the avalanche method. But this journey was built on a totally different idea. The thinking was, this isn't a math problem. This is a behavior problem. Okay, so section 3, the debt snowball attack. This new focus on behavior led straight to the next phase, which was, honestly, just a full-on, high-intensity assault on that debt. And the weapon of choice was the debt snowball. Here's how it works. You list out all your debts, not by interest rate, but from the smallest balance to the largest. Then you throw every single spare dollar you have at that tiniest debt. Once it's gone, poof, you get this amazing psychological boost. Then you take all the money you were paying on that debt and roll it onto the next smallest one. It just builds this incredible, unstoppable momentum. And let me tell you, making this work took some serious hustle. We're talking about budgeting every single dollar. No more eating out, driving for Uber and Lyft on the side, selling stuff online, flipping items, and just embracing a super frugal lifestyle. The whole point was to free up every possible penny to throw at that debt snowball. All right, on to section 4, from debt-free to investor. Once that consumer debt was finally gone, the entire focus could shift. It wasn't about getting out of a hole anymore. It was about building something for the future. But wait, first things first, you need a safety net. So before going after the big student loans, step 1 was to build up a quick $1,000 starter emergency fund. This is just a small buffer, right? It's there to handle those little things that always pop up. A flat tire, a surprise bill, so you don't have to reach for a credit card and go right back into debt. Then, after all the debt was gone, except for the mortgage, that little starter fund got a major upgrade. It was time to grow it into a fully funded emergency fund, covering a full 3 to 6 months of expenses. And this is a game changer. This is a thing that turns a true crisis, like losing your job, into just an annoyance, an inconvenience. And now for the fun part, the wealth building engine. You might be surprised at how simple the plan was. It was just consistently invest 15% of your gross income into retirement accounts. That's it. No crypto, no day trading, no chasing hot stocks. Just a simple, disciplined, straightforward approach. And honestly, that simplicity is the secret sauce.
When you look at studies of everyday millionaires, you find out most of them didn't get rich gambling on some risky stock. Nope, they just built their wealth through their 401ks and IRAs with regular, boring, consistent investing year after year. It really does prove that slow and steady wins the race.
So that brings us to Section 5, conquering the mortgage. This was the final boss, the last big hurdle on the path to being 100% debt-free, the house.
And the goal was just wild. Pay off a $165,000 mortgage as fast as humanly possible. So they took that same gazelle intensity, throwing extra payments at it, grinding on side hustles, even doing no-spend months, and they knocked the whole thing out in just 26 months. 26? That's just incredible. Now, we have to be real here and acknowledge a key factor. This crazy fast timeline was possible because they were dinkwads. That's dual income, no kids, with a dog. Look, having a bigger financial shovel and fewer expenses is a huge advantage, no question. So while these principles work for anyone, your timeline is definitely going to look different depending on where you are in life.
Which brings us to our last section, Section 6, the millionaire next door reality. So after a decade of all this intense focus, what does it actually look and feel like to be a millionaire?
And this might be the most important takeaway of the whole thing. It is not about private jets and fancy cars. The reality for most everyday millionaires is they're driving paid-for used cars and living in normal houses. The real prize isn't the stuff. It's the freedom. It's having options. And it's the ability to be outrageously generous. And since paying off the house was such a massive milestone in this story, it's probably worth sharing the rules they followed for buying it to begin with. First, be totally out of consumer debt. Have your full emergency fund saved up. Save a solid 10 to 20% down payment. Get a 15-year fixed rate loan, not a 30, and make sure the payment is no more than 25% of your after-tax income.
When you look back, this entire 10-year transformation started with just one single decision, a decision to just change. It wasn't about winning the lottery. It wasn't some magic trick. It was just a series of deliberate, intentional steps taken one after the other, day after day. So really, the only question left to ask is, what's your next best step?